99th percentile, here we come. Testing season is coming. You, like most parents, have probably never seen the standardized test that your child, along with millions of other 3rd through 12th graders in this country, are going to be taking coming up this spring. So this video is kind of going to feel illegal because I'm going to be showing you exactly what those tests look like and telling you how you should prepare. But I assure you, everything I am showing you is perfectly legal. Some of them are actual tests from previous years, and they are available for the public to view on your State Department of Education website. So why are test scores important? Number one, they tell us if the child has learned what we wanted them to learn this year. Number two, we use test scores to form elementary school rosters. All schools look at this differently. Some schools want all of the high-performing kids in one class so that they can move at a faster pace. Other schools want a mix of high, medium, and low so that one teacher isn't overwhelmed with all of one type of student. Test scores are also used to determine things like GT placement. I'm not going to go too deep into tracking in this video. However, I will say this. You want your child on track to be able to take those AP courses in high school so that they can skip up to 2 years of college. Also, if you ever have the need or want to send your child to private school, there are specific private school entry exams. However, in terms of admissions, they do look at your child's standardized testing. The scholarship program that paid for me to get through high school would not even consider students unless they were scoring in that 98th 99th percentile. My kids are homeschooled, but I still want them to be prepared. I don't know what could happen to me. I could get into an accident today, be in a full body cast. Then what's going to happen to my kids? They're going to be sent to this local school here? Absolutely not. So all you have to do is go to Google and type in whatever state test practice. So for example, Utah state test, and I'll do 3rd grade practice. And the reason I said 3rd grade is just because sometimes if I do it in general, it won't come up. So here's the Utah, I guess yours is called the Rise. Utah, amongst all the states that I looked at, had the weirdest interface and made it very, very difficult to access the test. So if you're in Utah, you really need to be advocating. If you are in a state where they don't give you easy access to the state test, you're going to have to really do some digging on their website, and you may need to contact your child's teacher or school. If your teacher has no idea how to access it, go to their academic coach or to the vice principal or principal, and don't stop until they tell you how to access these released state test items. The other states were okay. Here's Mississippi Algebra 1 practice test, Colorado, California, New York, and this is available for all grades. Georgia was kind of weird. Here's the Georgia Department of Education website, but you kind of had to dig through. And then once you did, they took you to a PowerPoint, and then you have to go through this PowerPoint to find the practice test. Okay, so Georgia, meh, but anyway, they have it available there. It just took a couple extra minutes to find. Texas is right there for you, okay, online or PDF. Now, even if you can't find your state test, or if you can find it and you just want extra practice, you can use the practice test from other states. I've looked through so many of them. They all are pretty much the same. Some just have worse questions than others, in my opinion. Okay, just be sure to use a few different ones. They generally look the same. One thing that is important to know that these days, state tests are largely taken on the computer. However, there are paper-based tests that you can use for practice, but your child most likely will be taking their test on the computer, so make sure that they are practicing on the computer. Also, most of these tests require Google Chrome. So here's the ELA practice test for Maryland. Let's look at Colorado. Wow, notice how they look really the same? And then let me show you, wait, should we do Texas? Let's look at the release test. This is the actual test that kids in Texas took last year. It's here available for you to see. Oh, good Lord, this is what it looks like. Come on, can we get some color in there? Test practice and online guides. I can navigate this pretty quick because I look at these all the time. So weird. So annoying. Georgia, you're doing too much. You're doing way too much. Look at this. Who would even think to click on this? So this looks like it was the spring 2023 test. Okay, we got it. Okay, I got it. This is important stuff for your child to know. By the way, they're just like the tools that are going to be available for your child to use. Oh my, oh my. This is Maryland? What was this, Texas? Some other one I don't remember? And Georgia. So you see they're all pretty similar. They're going to read a passage and then they're going to answer some questions about the passage. Now, one thing that's non-academic that your child will need to ace these tests is a good night's rest, which brings me to the sponsor of today's video, Helix. This is my daughter's new mattress. We've had it for about a week now. Sleep is really at the top of my list of things kids need in order to be academically successful. Think about yourself right now. When you don't get a good night's rest, what happens? You can't think, you're irritable. And I grew up not knowing too much about mattresses. I just don't think we put a lot of thought into our mattresses growing up. You know, when you go to a nice hotel and your body hits that mattress and all of a sudden you just want to sleep, that is what a good mattress can do for you. And that is what Amashe has been doing, just in the bed, knocked out.
No, I get the first 1, 2, 3. No, I think that it's really bouncy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
I like jumping on it and then jumping off and bumping my head on the pillow.
The pillows that came with it are really nice. I love these pillows. There you have it. You heard it from a kid. It's bouncy and soft and comfy, and they like jumping on it. What I like about this mattress is they're comfortable. Amashe tends to overheat, so it keeps her at the right temperature, not too hot, not too cold at night. When they get a good night's rest, I can get more work done, and then I can get my relaxation time in and a good night's rest as well. So visit helixsleep.com/Akiba to get 20% off site-wide in their New Year final hours sale. Thanks again to Helix for sponsoring today's video. Click on the link in the description to check out Helix. On all of the tests, they're going to read 2 passages, answer questions about those passages, and then in some way compare, contrast, or give their opinion or talk about the theme, something like that, some 3rd grade standard. Let's take a look at each grade level so you can see what it looks like as your child advances from elementary to high school. This is the 4th grade level. And as you can see, the passage is also from a children's magazine. This one's from Highlights for Children. When we get to 5th grade, it gets a little bit longer. This particular one is still from a magazine. Sixth grade, here's what it looks like. You see the vocabulary is a little bit more advanced. The passage is quite longer. And look what happens in the 7th grade. This passage is from Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, which is actually a real novel. So this is why we just don't want our kids reading just magazines or funny comic books. We also want them reading real novels. And actually, passages from novels are used even in 3rd grade. I've seen on some of these tests. Here's the 8th grade test, Jasmine Skies, another actual novel. How cool would it be if you got one of the novels you read that year on the test? And they don't necessarily need to read the novel that's going to be on the test, but just using those high quality books will put your child at such a big advantage. And then in 10th grade, we have O Pioneers, which is a novel that was written in 1913. So being well read becomes increasingly important. So if your child is not used to this much reading on their own, you need to get started right away. You don't want this to overwhelm them. Another thing you will notice is that nonfiction usually makes up about half of the reading passages that the child is required to do. And a lot of us get into the habit of allowing our children to get away with just reading fiction books. They're going to have to read nonfiction. So that's the next thing that you need to do, is get nonfiction in your house. And let me show you something. I've looked at so many of these tests. If you scroll and you look at the source of where they are getting the nonfiction and the fiction text from, a lot of times you'll see this. Cricket Media, Scholastic, Time for Kids. You may want to get a magazine subscription for your child. Those magazines are also available at Barnes & Noble, and they are definitely available at your local library. That was a huge hack for me once I realized where this material was coming from. Another thing you'll see is a good portion of the test is asking children vocabulary words like, what does the word trimmed mean as it is used in paragraph 2? How are children going to gain vocabulary? Unless you're sitting down with them with the vocabulary book, they need to be just reading a lot, and they need to be used to asking you questions about what they're reading. Have them sit down at the table while you're making dinner and let them silently read. Encourage them, hey, when you come across a word you don't know, ask me what that word means, and I will tell you or help you find the meaning of that word. So almost every test has a written portion. And as you can see, it's typed, okay? They're expected to read 2 different stories or passages, and they're expected to use details or examples from both stories to write a short answer. I will show you the differences between advanced, on grade level, just below grade level, way below grade level, okay? Where do you think your child fits in right now? A lot of kids may just write a couple sentences and then be done with it. Being able to use quotation marks in the 3rd grade and above matter. Having complex sentences, that matters. You can take a look at the rubric. It's right here on the website. Don't feel overwhelmed by this. And I'm going to do another video on writing, but I just wanted to get this out to let you know, start right now having your child write every day. The first step is making sure that they are comfortable with writing in response to what they're reading. Here's a hint. This received a score of 4, but this also received a 4. So it's not about how long the child is writing. You have a couple months till the test. You can definitely teach your child to write a decent paragraph in a few months. The important thing is that they get the proper ideas out and that they are spelling and using age-appropriate level grammar. Their spelling doesn't have to be perfect. Their grammar doesn't have to be perfect. However, they should know to read their passage back to themselves to make sure it makes sense. Don't worry too much about spelling, because if your child is spelling something phonetically, at least in the 3rd grade, that's most likely okay. 4th grade and above, though, we need to start working a little bit more on spelling. And certainly after 6th grade and up, the spelling should be on point. Quick side note, something that I would tell my students all the time, and I tell my kids now, look back in the text to find how to spell a word. So you shouldn't have the word said spelled incorrectly because it's right there on your paper. So I personally like using Core Knowledge because it's right in line with these standardized tests in terms of the questions, the grade level questions it's asking and what it's requiring the children to do. It requires children to write in some way every single day. However, if you don't have time for all that, a good high quality workbook that your child can sit down and do every single day after school or before school is great. And I will leave some recommendations in the description box below.